Imagine the person who replies to every text within seconds. They never say no to a weekend shift, and they provide endless emotional support to anyone who asks, expecting that this level of devotion will eventually be returned in kind. In reality, that devotion is rarely rewarded. Instead, they are the first to have plans canceled on them, and the last to be considered for a promotion. By offering their time and energy without a price tag, they've inadvertently signaled that their presence has the value of a clearance item in a bargain bin. People respond to availability far more than they respond to effort. Social interactions are governed by the same indifferent mechanism that moves global markets, the law of supply and demand. Adam Smith illustrated this through a simple paradox. Water is the fundamental requirement for life, yet it is almost free. Because it is abundant, falling from the sky and flowing from every tap, we use it to wash cars and flush toilets without a second thought. This shows the math behind that decision. At the high end of supply, value stays flat, but as availability approaches zero, the perceived value scales exponentially upward. Diamonds are practically useless for survival, but because they require immense friction to extract, we revere them. If you are unconditionally available, you are operating as social water, useful but unremarkable. To change how you are treated, you have to move your position on that graph. You have to artificially restrict your supply to become the diamond. The sociologist Thorstein Veblen observed that certain goods defy traditional logic. He identified Veblen goods, luxury items that become more desirable specifically because their high price makes them inaccessible to the masses. The cost itself is the primary attraction. Most people operate with a supermarket personality. Doors slide open automatically for anyone walking by. A high-value individual operates like an exclusive boutique. There is a velvet rope, a closed door, and a deliberate barrier to entry. This utilizes the justification of effort bias. When the human brain works to access a resource, it subconsciously concludes that the target must be worth the struggle. We value what we have to fight for. By defaulting to no and introducing intentional friction into your schedule, you force others to evaluate the worth of your time. This naturally filters out those looking for an easy resource while signaling to high-value peers that your time is a premium asset. Information follows the same rules as currency. When a central bank prints too much money, the purchasing power of every individual dollar evaporates. This diagram shows the inflation of speech. The person who acts as an open book, flooding the market with their trauma, their plans, and their every stray thought, effectively devalues their own voice. When you speak constantly, your words lose their weight. Machiavelli and Robert Greene suggest an alternative, the information barrier. By speaking only 20% of the time and refusing long-winded justifications for your choices, you maintain a high exchange rate for your words. Silence creates an information vacuum. In that void, people instinctively project their own fascinations and fears onto you, assuming a level of depth and strategy that remains hidden. You become an enigma, and enigmas are expensive. Beyond your time and your words, there is one asset that others will constantly try to devalue: your emotional reaction. A cheap personality acts like an emotional vending machine. When a provocation is inserted, an immediate, predictable reaction is dispensed. It is a reflex that hands over the lead in any interaction to whoever can push the right buttons. The Stoics practiced apatheia, the ability to observe a chaotic event and choose to remain still. It's the transition from reflexive machine to deliberate observer. When you deny a manipulator the emotional payout they expect, the transaction fails. You retain your energy, leaving the other party to manage the weight of their own provocation. Tactics like silence and friction only work if backed by a genuine lack of neediness. If you are desperate for an outcome, that cheap energy will leak through the facade. Negotiators like Chris Voss have noted that the moment you signal you need to close a deal, your market price crashes. The person with the most power in any room is the one who is truly prepared to walk away from the table. Luxury brands and innovators like Steve Jobs maintain their value by refusing to compromise. Jobs was famously difficult because of his uncompromising standard for quality, even in the parts of a machine a customer would never see. He would rather lose a sale than lower his standard. Raising your price has a cost. Introduce these barriers, and many people will simply walk away. You will experience a period where the cheap connections fall away, leaving you momentarily isolated. This silence is not a loss. It is the sifting process required to find high-value opportunities. You are clearing the bargain bin connections to make room for those who actually respect the cost of entry. By embracing the intentional friction of being rare, you stop being an abundant resource that is easily used and quickly forgotten. You trade the comfort of being easily available for the sovereignty of being truly valued.